Happiest season. This is one terrible poster, by the way. The longer I look at it, the more I'm convinced that all the faces are actually badly photoshopped on bodies of different people, of stand-ins. It's out on Hulu now, starring Kristen Stewart, Mackenzie Davis, Alison Brie, and Aubrey Plaza. It's a new lesbian rom-com slash Christmas movie, which is pretty much as far away from my typical movie preferences as humanly possible. However, I've seen the trailer a couple of weeks ago. It seemed like it was going to be quite funny, and coming off a season of, on the one hand, new horror films, and on the other hand, my personal journey through the back catalogue of Alfred Hitchcock, I thought, hey, something lighter for a change may be a good idea. The story centers around a lesbian couple, Abby, Kristen Stewart, and Harper, Mackenzie Davis. We learn at the beginning that the first one is an orphan, kind of hates Christmas, is planning to spend it alone in their apartment when Harper goes to see her family. However, in the heat of the moment, Harper invites Abby over for a couple of days. And only on the way to the house, to the family house, she confesses that she hasn't actually come out to the family yet. And she doesn't want to do it during Christmas because her father is lobbying with some political allies and it's all a very stressful time and so on. So, not wanting to destroy this perfect image of the favorite daughter for the time being, she asks Abby to maintain the charade, to pretend that they're not actually a couple, just roommates. And the story goes from there. Now, the trailer promised quirky, fun comedy with lots of light-hearted jokes coming from the charade. And I'd expected the story to go like it usually does in rom-coms. You know, it's funny most of the time, then there's the big drama towards the end, but it all ends happily. This film does kind of follow this template, but I'd say right off the bat, it's disappointingly far from being light-hearted fun. I think most of the funny jokes were put in the trailer, and the film itself, surprisingly enough, plays it all quite seriously. At times, it almost becomes a regular drama about the difficulties of coming out, of the fear of your family's reaction, and in general, the gay experience. But it doesn't really work. And the key reason for that are the characters. See, the film is populated by absolute assholes. Like, towards the end, I tried to count, and including Abby, who's the real protagonist, there's really only like 3 characters who are not straight up evil. What was done is, because what was done is also typical for rom-coms, which is reducing most of the characters, because there's a pretty wide cast, okay, to people with a single defining trait and focusing on that and finding humor in this singular type of weird behavior per person. Now, this would have been fine if the comedy was actually present and expanded upon, if this was obviously played for laughs. It's easy to accept weird and quirky when it's not meant to be taken seriously. But for some weird reason, the film plays it all straight, which turns the characters into complete sociopaths. I mean, I thought about this. There was this experiment on YouTube a while ago where people would take sitcoms like How I Met Your Mother or Big Bang Theory and removed the laugh track. And what that did was made all the people in it look like completely unhinged crazies. And I feel that a similar thing happens here, and the people that populate the film are almost entirely unlikable and fucked up, and their behavior is straight up inexcusable. So instead of having a good time and laughing at all these silly shenanigans, I'm sitting there frustrated with how awful these people are. Also, going back to the thing with everyone having a single defining characteristic, it seems to me that the one for the lead pair of characters is that they're lesbian. I couldn't tell you anything more about their character, apart from also the fact that Harper, is afraid to come out. What do they like? What do they enjoy? What don't they like? What are their quirks and flaws and strengths? I don't know. There's nothing. They're paper thin. It's like the fact that they're lesbian is the only thing in the world that matters about these people. Now, I know I'm ragging about the writing, and I want to make one thing absolutely crystal clear. The movie is pretty bad, but it's not bad because it's a lesbian film. Far from it. In fact, most of the stuff that does actually work is directly related to the lesbian aspect. So it's not awful because of it. It's rather awful in spite of it. Now, I said some things work. I think Kristen Stewart is pretty good. I think Alison Brie is very good. And she's surprisingly cast against type. She typically plays innocent sweethearts, but here she's kind of a bitch to everyone, which was quite enjoyable. I think some of the jokes land, although to be fair, all of the best ones are already in the trailer. And very often it seems like the movie, it does this weird thing where it will start a scene with a really funny joke, But then instead of committing and going forward with it, it will just cut away to a different scene. That's it. This is one punchline, and we go to the next scene. The humor in general feels kind of underdeveloped. Let's see what else was good. There's a scene towards the end when the big drama happens, and Abby has a conversation with her gay friend. That's also, a serious scene. But I felt this one really worked. It touches on the experience of coming out and how it's different for everyone else, and it's a very emotional scene in a good way. And that's kind of it. I had high hopes for Aubrey Plaza, and she's okay, and her character is one of the good ones. But I felt, considering her talents, she's kind of wasted in a role that's really subdued and calm. But again, I'm sure this applies to all the rest of the cast, by the way. The blame is not on the actors, it should be on the writing. Final point, I have to mention the ending, which of course does the pivot from massive drama to happy ending. And it was the most unbelievable, terrible, outrageous thing I've seen in a long time. And that's including the latest Nick Cage film called Jiu-Jitsu, which doesn't have any jiu-jitsu in it. Suddenly, over the course of 5 minutes, every single character has a major life epiphany and decides to turn things around, and suddenly, magically, everything is okay. Past transgressions are all forgiven, we're all different people from now on until the end of time, and love is in the air. Really? I mean, really, after all the trouble you just went through to make the movie quite sobering and paint all these people as total assholes, suddenly we're supposed to all be friends? No fucking way. So, there you have it. If, like me, you were interested by what the trailer promised, don't believe those promises. It's not a fun, light-hearted rom-com. It's a movie that tries to be a comedy and a serious film about the lesbian experience at the same time, but ends up mostly failing at both and becoming this festival of poorly written, paper-thin, infuriating characters.